My name is Joseph Lloyd and I'm an independent vehicle consultant. I find cars for people. Over the past year, on my YouTube channel, I've done a series of about 25 reviews, known as the Tweed Jacket reviews, where I've reviewed and assessed cars of all different shapes and sizes, old and new, expensive and cheap. I've had some feedback though from some of my viewers who obviously love the reviews, but want something a little bit less expensive. And so I present to you no budget reviews, all filmed on a phone, no fancy editing, no fluid head tripods, no DSLRs, just honest cars for less than £1,000 that you can pick up on the second-hand market. So join me on an adventure around the country as we go and find these cars for less than £1,000, and we have a lot of fun doing so. Well, here we are back in Coventry with Mr. Coleman, the rubbish mechanic, and his friends have brought me another car to film for no budget reviews. Of course, it's no budget reviews. We don't have any things like, you know, separate microphones, or I really should get one, I think. We don't have DSLRs and fluid head tripods, and we don't have cars that cost a lot of money. This is a 1989 Volvo 240 GL Estate, and I am full of nostalgic feelings today, because my mother had one of these from 1990 to 2001. It was a midnight blue 240 GL catalyzer. This isn't a catalyzer, this is a smaller engine. The 2.3 catalyzer was 111 horsepower. This is a 2 litre with about 100 horsepower. Sounds better than the catalyzer one because that takes away some of the exhaust sound. It's not quite as in nice condition as my mother's one, and this car's not been brought to keep for too long, I don't think. They do make for hilarious times because the suspension is so soft. I'll show you here, look. Anyway, the car has had a replacement tailgate on the back. It's having, I think, a new engine to it. It's already had a new gearbox in it, and this car cost, I believe, in the region of £300. It's done some ridiculous intergalactic mileage, because all 240s used to do back in the day. My mother's car did well over 100,000 miles in the 11 years which she owned it. And we're going to go and look at the interior now, because I am just overcome with nostalgic warmth. So I shall use my glove to show you around the car. This is the same interior colour that my mother's one had, and I thought the doors in the day felt heavy, but these really don't in comparison with some modern cars. Just look at this interior. I just use it down, just get in here. Just careful with the door because it stays a bit gone here. Look at this dashboard. Look at this. 235,000 miles. An original Volvo stereo from 1989, and these controls, temperature, cool and warm, and you can have air mix, cool and warm as well. You can have different air going to the face as well as to your feet in this car. There's the defroster button, very simple to operate, and also there's a floor thing. You can direct the air wherever you really want to direct. That little bit's falling off there. Hazard warning switch is just there. Heated rear window. When the car's been started up, then we will show you the little hazard flasher which comes on as well if you don't put your seatbelt on. There's also one of those in the rear. You can put stuff in this little shelf. I think my mother used to put all kinds of random rubbish on there. Just close the door so I can show you the door card here. Open the door like this. Only car I've ever seen that in, actually. Electric windows only in the front in this car. It's a GL, so it's the base model for the 1989 year. My mother's car, I think it was a 1990 model year, although it was made in '89, so it was a slightly different spec. It had a slightly different radio in it and things, and it was a demonstrator from the local Volvo dealer, so it was a bit different. That, I think, is the fog light switch. Dimmable instrument panel, of course, in a car like this. Key goes in just there. Big kind of chunky switches. I never got to drive my mother's car back in the day. Never got to. It was a real shame, actually. And I remember this action of the indicator stalk as well. Let's open up the glove box. This originally would have had a mirror panel on it, which would have folded out like this, and it has two cup holders in it too. This one, I think, is broken off at some point. Look at these wonderful door fittings, big armrest, speaker grills, everything's on display, and the headlining as well. It's sort of a vinyl, I think, in here. It's very 1960s. And there's Geoff again. Geoff is here. I thought, yeah, the Scorpio that we filmed a couple of weeks ago, that sadly died the day after we filmed it. So this is now the family's car for the time being. Original Volvo overmats, just like the ones that used to have my mother's car. And heated seats. Fantastic. Perhaps find out if that one actually works later on. Just like a mother's car, heated seats. Cassette player, of course. Not what we've got in here. Ooh. Oh dear. Just put that back and forget about that, shall we? Just not say anything. Let's go to the back. Okay. I had to climb in sort of sideways here because we've got lots of bits and pieces in here. This car is being used on a daily basis at the moment. Got this nice heavy upholstery, a bit of vinyl on the top here, which is sort of soft touch, I suppose. Locking knobs, of course. Just for lumbar support on the driver's seat. Very important on something like a Volvo. Just get in rather elegantly. The doors do open very high. They're quite narrow doors on this car. I forgot how narrow they were. And also, I've not got a lot of legroom. I mean, I'm sort of, my knees aren't really in because I've got boxes in the way, but it's not actually the most spacious car in the world. It always used to bug me that a little bit, because when I was younger and getting, you know, more towards adult height, but look at this knee room. I'm only 5'11" and my knees are sort of right up against there. You know, that's not too far off either. When the car turns on, that will start flashing as well. Seatbelt warning light. And yes, you've got all the things a family needs. I've got rear headrests as well in this car. I'm not going to be able to open the boot, I'm afraid, of this particular one, so we can't have a look underneath that and have a look at where the rear-facing seats might have been. That is a bit of a shame, but it's just the way that this car is, and you know, it costs £300. You know, what do you expect? Mr. Coleman to open the bonnet for me, because the bonnet release broke a couple of days ago, and this is the replacement bonnet release for now, but it'll do. And here we have this famous Volvo red block engine, which was in cars for an awfully long time, until 1998, I believe, which was the end of the 940 production. So this is the B200 engine, fuel injected, with Bosch K-Jectronic fuel injection. Standard form, about 100 horsepower. Very similar, if you watch the Furious Driving channel, to the engine that's in Mr. Richardson's Volvo 740. Same engine, similar gearbox, that sort of thing. Not very fast, and yes, as you can see, the springs are a bit soft, so I should be taking it very easy when I go for a drive in a little while. Amazing access. Look, there is the oil filter, just there. Loads of room to work in it. They did put much bigger engines into a 240 than this, anything up to about 2.8 litres of the PRV V6. We'll talk a little bit more about the engine, so not all of the engines in the 200 series, because this car was in production from 1974 to 1993, and I haven't really got time or memory capacity to talk you through all the engines that were available, because there were an awful lot of them. And of course, on this channel we don't talk about diesels, so I won't be mentioning any of those. Right viewers, it's time to take a little drive in this 240. To put my seatbelt on, otherwise the seatbelt reminder will just keep going off. Right, clutch down into first. My mother's only 5'3", a very slight lady. This clutch is really heavy. Wow, this thing is slow. I'm sorry about the strange angle, by the way. That's the only angle I can get in this. So yes, the Volvo 240, 260, 242, 244, 245, 262, 264, 265. All the same basic car. We're based heavily on the previous series, the 100 series, 142, 144, 143, 145 and the 164. 165s I don't think were ever really officially made, and the 140 series initially came out in 1966. And then it was replaced by the 200 series in 1974. This is the kind of final facelift for the car. Be about 88, 89. I can't remember exactly when these came in. The information on these that I can find on the internet is not particularly good. So the Volvo experts will tell me what they were like. Just go carefully through here because I'm a Volvo driver. One thing that strikes me is it's a bit like driving, I don't know, a Rolls Royce or something. The bonnet is incredibly long. Have got power steering in this particular car, so it's nice and easy to drive along. It's quite relaxing actually. It's not fast, it's not particularly dynamic, but yes, it is amazing. I don't know whether or not this car's got what my mother's car had, which was the side lights were permanently on. Whatever you did, the side lights would always come on when you drove the car. I think that's a Swedish thing. Yeah, engine sounds a little tired in this one, but it has done 235,000 miles. So the engine's available in a 200 series Volvo. There are an awful lot of them. There was a 1.8 in markets like Italy and Greece that developed 90 horsepower back in the days of things like the 244 and 245. All 200 series Volvos were renamed to just 240 and 260 in 1982, I believe it was. The 6-cylinder engines, under normally the 264, 265 and 262, were a 2.7 litre with about 140 horsepower, and then a 2.8 litre, but that was normally detuned in places like North America to anything down to 110 horsepower. In some markets that was up to about 130. This is a later car with a fuel injection and B200 engine, which is a 2 litre, about 100 horsepower, as I've said previously. And there was also a 2.3 litre. My mother's car had a 2.3 litre engine with a catalytic converter, that was 111 horsepower. The 2.3 standard in cars like the GLT, that was the top trim level at the time that this car was made, was about 130 horsepower. There was also a turbo version, and you could get a 2 litre turbo. That was about 136 horsepower, I think. That was a sort of tax special for markets like Italy and Greece. And then there was a 2.3 turbo, and that was anything up to 200 horsepower, so it's pretty rapid. There's also a 2.1 litre engine, which was an early one. Again, that was about 100 horsepower. There are also some Volkswagen sourced diesels. You know what I'm going to say? We don't talk about those on this channel, do we? Yes, I'm just going to go around the corner and then we'll find a little place to stop to switch the camera around. There we go, into the first. Yes. I should just tell you about trim levels before we switch the camera around. So at the base of the range there was the DL, or the Deluxe. That sort of went out by the time this car was made. So the base model was the GL, which seems like still quite a lot. I think my heated seat is working as well. Oh, that's nice. There was the GLT, the sporty one. That was the one everybody wants, one with the nice alloy wheels. And then there was the GLE, which was the top of the range one. The turbo car, just called 240 turbo, or just a Volvo turbo on the back. A bit like the 740 or 760 turbo in that respect. Right, if I just pull over here for 1 second, and we'll switch the camera around. I'm afraid that's the best sort of angle we're going to be getting, because there's other mounts already in the car, so I'm sorry, but this is just what we're going to have to cope with. Hopefully that is alright. Right at the end of production, and you would have maybe seen it on the back of this car, there was a Torslander Special Edition, and that, I believe, had air conditioning actually, and some very snazzy alloy wheels. Torslander was the name of the factory in Sweden where they made the majority of the 240s, and I think lots of them had sort of roof rails and that kind of stuff. It's amazing that a design that dated back to the mid-1960s was still quite popular, even as late as 1992, 1993. But people used to love these cars. They just went on forever. So my mother's one did, and you know, she very much enjoyed the car that she had. She kept it for a very long time, and sold it to a colleague actually, and suddenly it got written off by a BT van in South Wales in 2003, which is a real shame. It was G999WBP, and that was just the plate it came with. It wasn't a person plate or anything like that, it just the plate that it came with, which is extraordinary really, isn't it? Yeah, so the suspension's a bit bouncy, but I'm not noticing too much of it. Just doing under 30 miles an hour, which is what I'm doing, because, you know, the car's not really in the first flush of youth. But there's something about this. I mean, it just still feels really solid and just very, very safe. You know that you're probably going to be okay if you were to hit another car of the same age. Obviously, if you hit a more modern car, then, you know, it's probably not going to be too great. But if you hit a similar car of a similar age to this, you're probably going to be okay. Airbags, I think, in a 240 were only available right at the end of production, so maybe 91, 92, maybe not even at all in the UK. Let's go down here. Let's do some cornering. Oh, ho, ho. Even at sub 20 miles an hour, that's interesting. Anyway, let's go around here. Listen to more of that red block engine. Yes. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed driving this car. What a lovely experience. I can see why my mother loved it. I mean, it's not the fastest, not the most luxurious, not the most dynamic car, but there's something about driving this old Volvo which brings a huge smile to my face. I don't think it's even a nostalgia factor, I just think it's great. Right, let's park up here. Wonderful. So thank you so much for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. It's been wonderful to have you along for the ride. Would I recommend getting a Volvo 240 if you get your hands on one? Absolutely. You know, this car, I think it's a little bit far gone to go on to live too much longer on the road, but it's been bought for a bit of fun. I think it might end up on the track with a bit of a more powerful engine or something, and you know, it do pretty well. You feel like you cross continents in this thing. The engine that they're going to put in the car tomorrow, I think, will give it a bit more power as well, because this one seems a bit low in compression to me. But there we go. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. And if you've got a car that you wish to submit for No Budget Reviews, then please do get in touch with me. My email address is japl745@hotmail.com. And if you wish me to source a car for you, it doesn't have to be anything as lovely as this, then please do get in touch via my website. It's www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. I've also got a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting, and also an Instagram page, instagram.com/Lloyd_vehicle_consulting. Thank you. "30 years. 30 years I've been wanting to drive that car. Wonderful.